Welcome to Taste of Truth Tuesdays, where we'll be serving up bite-sized conversations on all things fitness, nutrition, mindset, and spirituality. So grab your headphones and get ready to taste the truth with us every Tuesday. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform because every bite counts. Hey, welcome back to Taste of Truth Tuesday, everybody. Today's episode, Earn the Right to Diet, Metabolism, Nutrition, and Health First. We are going to dismantle the myths, explore facts, and learn how to stop fighting against our bodies and start working with it. And as you know, I hope on Taste of Truth Tuesdays, we challenge the quick fix culture. We take deep dives into what the science says, and we try to find practical ways on how to take care of our bodies and our minds. And I'm Megan Lee, your host, and today we are tackling such a hot topic, weight loss, or more accurately stated, fat loss. And this is why I preach the mantra, you've got to earn the right to diet. Our culture is obsessed with weight loss, and seriously, it's everywhere. We've got magazine headlines, social media posts, and those cringe-worthy commercials promising 30 pounds in 30 days. But here's the real deal. When we talk about weight loss, what most of us are really wanting is fat loss, and that is a very critical distinction. For example, when we discussed in our opening season 3 episode about Ozempic, womp womp, some people who use this drug experience muscle loss and lower bone density, which increases the risk of injury, especially for older adults. So if we're losing weight, and I say that in quotation marks, this could mean losing muscle, water, or even more important, bone density. And that's not exactly what we're aiming for, right? So when someone told me on the holiday break, I've lost 30 pounds in a very short time, that's literally muscle and bone. And probably not body fat. So before diving into diet strategies, let's first start off with fundamentals. Metabolism, what is it? Daily energy needs, what's that? And why chasing fat loss without preparation will often backfire. So let's go. So in order to understand metabolism and our body's energy needs, we first got to break down what your total daily energy expenditure is, or that's TDEE for short. This is the total amount of energy, aka calories, that your body burns in a day. And I want you to think about it like your budget. How much energy you're spending to stay alive, to digest food, and just to live your life. And so what makes up your total daily energy expenditure are a couple things. Number one, resting metabolic rate, also known as RMR. So this is your body's baseline energy burn, the calories that you need just to breathe, to pump blood, and to stay alive. And your body size and your muscle mass, that matters because the more muscle means more calories that you burn, even when you're just chilling on the couch. And age matters too, because as we age, we tend to lose muscle and unfortunately burn fewer calories. But guess what? It's never too late to go hit the weights, go hiking, and to change that. Second thing that makes up your total daily energy expenditure is a cool thing named thermogenesis. Have you ever heard of that before? This is the heat that your body produces to maintain a stable temperature. And this also includes the thermic effect of food, abbreviated TEF. And this is the energy that's required to digest, absorb, and store your food that you eat. And it's about 10% of the calories that you consume goes towards this process, proving that even digestion is hard work. The final aspect that goes into the total daily energy expenditure is what we call physical activity. So yes, that's your exercise activity at the gym or particular Zumba or your hikes. And that's also non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which you may have heard of. Us personal trainers, we call that NEAT. And that also might include your step count. Everyday movements, walking, housework, thinking, using your brain, takes calories and energy, carrying groceries, or even fidgeting. NEAT can make up 15% of your overall overall total daily energy expenditure, while intentional exercise typically contributes to around 5%. So we need to talk about that one more time. So when I've worked with clients, they think about, I'm going to work out, X many days per week, 3 times per week. That is so important. And if they missed a workout, they would be so disappointed. And while it is very important to stick to your workout routine, I just wanted to stress that these everyday movements like parking farther away at the grocery store, choosing to take the stairs instead of the elevator, stuff like that can actually add up really quick, since studies show that non-exercise activity thermogenesis makes up 15% of your total daily energy burned, and exercise at the gym is only 5%? Holy heck, that's a big difference. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? The bottom line, never underestimate the power of a good walk. So fat loss doesn't equal weight loss, right? Your body isn't just a spreadsheet. It doesn't see your calorie deficit and say, oh, great, let's burn fat. Instead, your body adapts to survive. As I've said before, it's not like your cell phone, your body. It doesn't get this iOS update. It doesn't go, let's get shredded for vacation. You're right. It's not in the middle of February, or I'm not really stressed out. It doesn't get the intention. Our body is designed to reproduce and survive. That's it. So when you cut calories too hard or for too long, your body gets the message, famine, alert, and it's going to start conserving energy and prioritizing survival. The result? You feel tired, your hair starts thinning, your period might disappear, and your fat loss grinds to a halt. And this is called metabolic adaptation, and it's a feature. It's not a bug. Your body's goal is survival, not helping you fit into your old genes. So it's story time. I want to tell you about the metabolic aftermath, lessons from the Biggest Loser TV show. So I mentioned this in a previous podcast episode, but I want to get into the nitty-gritty science of why extreme dieting is a metabolic disaster just waiting to happen. So buckle up, because we're about to unpack the Biggest Loser study that I teased in the first episode of this season much further. To recap, contestants on the Biggest Loser TV show followed a very intense restrictive protocol. They ate roughly about 1,200 calories a day, which is about what a toddler should be eating, and they worked out on machines 90 minutes of intense exercise 6 days a week. Sometimes that actually went up to 5 or 8 hours daily, according to some of the contestants. Their grocery list, approved by their trainers and dominated by frankenfoods like fat-free cheese and energy drinks. And the result? Drastic weight loss during the season, but the aftermath tells a much darker story. All right, well, what happened post-show? Well, let's talk about it. In 2015, 6 years after their stint on The Biggest Loser, researchers revisited the contestants, and by then they had regained about 70% of the weight that they had lost, but their metabolisms didn't bounce back. In fact, their resting metabolic rate, remember we talked about it earlier, was still burning 700 fewer calories per day than when they first started the show. That's 500 calories less than predictive equations would expect based on their regained body weight. This is such a huge deal. And so let me put it another way. So let's say you ask ChatGPT, how many calories should I be eating if I want to lose weight? Or maybe you download an app like MyFitnessPal. Their metabolism was burning 500 calories less than the predictive equations that these apps would use. So this would not work out well for your weight loss goals. Does that make sense? It also showed that participants had lost 25 pounds of lean muscle mass during the filming of the show. So when they lose weight, that wasn't all fat, 25 pounds of lean muscle. I think and I hope you know how hard it is to build muscle, so you definitely don't want to celebrate, woohoo, any loss of it. They did regain about 13 pounds of it, but like we said earlier, their resting metabolic rate, the RMR, didn't increase accordingly. So usually regaining lean muscle mass will help boost your metabolism, but not for these contestants. Their body seemed to still be in conservation mode. 6 years later. Why? Well, extreme calorie deficits and grueling exercise regimens will wreak havoc on your body's hormonal systems. Leptin, the hormone that signals fullness and regulates energy expenditure, we've talked about it before in the milkshake study in a previous episode, that plummets during the show. After contestants regained their weight, leptin levels rebounded, but their resting metabolic rate did not follow suit. And normally these two rise and fall together, but this link was severed. And these metabolic adaptations were not just temporary. As I said, they've been lingering for years later, showing that the body doesn't easily forgive extreme restriction. Okay, Meg. What does this mean for us? Well, many people think that fat loss is all about the willpower and that psychological resistance. But as the study shows, extreme dieting fundamentally changes your physiology. Your body isn't just sitting around idly while you slash calories. It's actually actively fighting back just to keep you alive. So it seems once that metabolic check engine light goes on, calorie restriction becomes far less effective than it was at the start, and this is why dieting feels so much harder over time. The Biggest Loser study highlights the long-term consequences of metabolic adaptation, which is a normal bodily response to extreme or chronic dieting. And here's what can happen. We'll see disrupted leptin and ghrelin levels, which are going to throw off our hunger and fullness cues. We're going to see that upregulated adrenal activity, which we've talked about in past episodes, the downregulated thyroid and reproductive hormones, which leads to weight loss resistance, missed periods or irregular cycles, hair loss and constant coldness like fingers and toes, and loss of muscle mass, which will lower your RMR, which will make it harder to maintain fat loss. And this is why I preach, you've got to earn the right to diet. A big part of what I do is coaching clients out of the yo-yo cycle, because when new clients come, fat loss is often their top goal. But most have already been through the ringer of these yo-yo dietings, binge eating, or sporadic exercise routines. Many are already in a metabolically downregulated state without even realizing it. Instead of diving into another calorie deficit, we need to work on stabilizing their foundation first. We focus on sustainable habits, consistent workouts, balanced meals, and a healthier relationship with food. Oh, let's toss out that 365 Easy Challenge. How's everybody doing on that? That's why I put that together. We want to focus on simple and sustainable. We optimize metabolism through the resistance training, proper nutrition, and making sure we have enough recovery. And we work on the mindset. We reframe that negative self-talk, building body confidence, and learning to appreciate progress beyond the scale. And I have future episodes that we're going to break down more about that brain reframe and self-talk. So stay tuned. And you see, once we've mastered these basics, a fat loss phase, if desired, becomes a healthier and more effective process. So what's the moral of the story? Well, your body isn't broken, it's adaptable. Our bodies are designed to survive famines, but not crash diets or shredding for the summer. You can still have aesthetic goals, but you need to respect the incredible adaptability of your metabolism. By avoiding extremes and building metabolic efficiency, you can achieve your goals without wrecking your long-term health. So before diving into nutritional periodization, I really want to talk about some sneaky metabolic red flags. These are often subtle, overlooked signs that your metabolism is waving a caution flag. Caution, without setting off obvious alarms that we may have previously talked about in this episode or in ones before. So here are a few things that might fly under the radar. And for tips on how to reverse these sneaky metabolic red or yellow flags, please check the blog that goes along with today's episode. It's got so much information and cute photos and infographics in it. And the goal is to coax your body back into balance, not force it into submission. So again, check the show notes for more. So the first sneaky caution flag is digestive woes. This could be persistent constipation, bloating, or irregular bowel movements. This can indicate sluggish digestion linked to metabolic slowdown as the body conserves energy by slowing down non-essential functions. This could look like feeling too full or nauseous after small meals, and this could signal a dysregulated gut-brain connection from chronic stress or extreme dieting. So resting heart rate changes. So lower than normal resting heart rate. So this is something that we have to unpack because typically in the normal, like Mayo Clinic, if you Google resting heart rate, they'll say if you're fit, it's okay that it's lower. We have to kind of crack that myth at another time. But what we really want to talk about are sudden spikes in heart rate during light activity, and this could mean your body is stressed or overcompensating. You may see heart rate variability on your monitoring system if you wear like a Oura ring or a watch, and that's something you can start monitoring. Again, we're not looking for once in a blue moon. We're looking for trends and patterns that you want to track over time. Number 3 are going to be skin and nail changes. Dry, flaky skinned or increased sensitivity to the cold due to impaired circulation. We could see vertical ridges on your nails or brittleness in the nails, and this could signal nutrition deficiencies like iron or biotin depletion. Number 4 would be random muscle cramps or twitches, and this can be a result of electrolyte imbalances from overexercising or undereating. And so it's really important to start by balancing your electrolytes and look at like stretching and magnesium supplements. So again, I've got all tips in the blog, but I just had to throw this out there because it's so important. Brain fog and forgetfulness, this can be experienced like struggling to focus or experiencing slower mental processing. And this can be from just inadequate glucose availability or dysregulated cortisol levels. Also, a reduced appetite. Wait, what? Yes, a suppressed appetite after prolonged dieting is a very sneaky sign of a dampened leptin response, which is your body's way of conserving energy. Number 7, wake up feeling exhausted even after a full night's sleep. This can be due to poor recovery from stress or disrupted sleep stages thanks to cortisol and ghrelin. Womp womp, I deal with this quite often. So there's many things we can do to improve sleep hygiene, and most importantly is focus on protein at breakfast. Final 2, dull libido or no interest in sex. So your metabolic system that's in survival mode, that is not going to prioritize reproduction, so you're probably going to have lower libido. And last thing is random energies or slow healing. You might be susceptible to injuries like strains or joint pain, delayed recovery from workouts or cuts, and this is hinting at insufficient injury or insufficient nutrients for repair. And that's why I wanted to share some of these subtle signs, because they don't just scream, your metabolism is broken, warning, warning, but together they can whisper it pretty loudly. And we're in this together. I speak from personal experience. I speak from working with clients for over 20 years. And I really want to finally get to the point of today's episode. What do I mean when I say earn the right to diet? Okay, well now we're talking wiki. Let's break it down. Strategy. Nutrition isn't a one-size-fits-all the time thing. It's seasonal, just like nature. And so this could look like a maintenance season, focusing on balancing and consistency, a fat loss season, which could create a calorie deficit strategically and temporarily, and then a reverse dieting season, which would be slowly increasing calories post-diet to avoid the rebound in weight gain. This approach is called nutritional periodization, and it prevents the long-term damage that we've seen in extreme diets. Biggest Loser contestants. Instead of burning out your metabolism, you give your body time to adapt and recover. So nutritional periodization is the real secret sauce, but timelines for this are going to vary depending on the person, but the framework is progressive, and the process is going to involve a couple things. First, it's going to gradually increase calories to support metabolism. We're going to be shifting fitness priorities from cardio-heavy routines to strength-focused programming, which is going to build muscle and improve body composition. So what that translates to is a lot of clients who have come to me, they've been doing Orange Theory Fitness 7 days a week, or Burn boot camp classes where it's like their heart rate is in zone 3, zone 2, very, very highly, that's like, 70, 80, 90% of their max. And they think the more they sweat, the more sore they are, the better results they'll get. If you've listened to anything in today's episode, I hope you understand that's not always going to be how it works. So typically I don't take them out of their memberships, but I definitely reduce the frequency of how often they're doing that sort of workout. High intensity interval training or really intense workouts, they're not bad, but like how much you do, how frequent you do, especially if you're already in a downregulated state, that can really be the make or break. Most importantly, this process is all about reviving your mindset to understand that fat loss does not automatically mean a better body image or more happiness. We're going to talk about body image much more later this month, so I'm excited about that. So let's move on to the final aspect of today's episode, maintenance. Maintenance phase. It is often overlooked as the MVP of this entire nutritional periodization process. Drum roll, please. The maintenance window, the ultimate flex. I cannot stress this enough. Most people gloss over maintenance because it's not glamorous. There's no scale-dropping dopamine hit or a big reveal. But here's the truth. Maintenance is actually where the magic happens. This is where you rebuild your metabolism. So when you eventually do enter a fat loss phase, your body's going to respond the way you want. This is where you focus on mastering the basics, which, by the way, I don't think are that easy. As meal prepping, consistent workouts, stress management. I mean, that's why I broke it down in the 365 Easy Challenge, which was a play on the 75 Hard, which I think is not really going to help you in your long-term goals. And this is why we're going to cultivate a relationship with food that isn't all or nothing, that black and white mindset. And so I want to share a story to illustrate this. The client who wanted it harder. So a client came to me desperate to lose weight. She was super frustrated with her stomach area and hated the way her clothes fit. And I got it. Her pain was real. Her goals were valid, but as we talked, it became very clear to me that there was a much bigger picture. She had a shoulder injury that really limited her workouts. She struggled with GERD, which is a digestive issue, which was very much worsened by stress. And she was so busy managing at her job, she'd often to forget to eat or relied on takeout for meals. She was eating roughly about 1,400 to 1,700 calories a day, which is barely enough for a toddler, let alone a busy adult who wanted to lose weight. So when a fat loss coach like me begins with a client, we've got to cut about 15 to 20% calories, and that would have been impossible to sustain and would have made her health worse. And I tried to explain this to her. We needed to focus on the foundational habits first. I wanted to focus on improving digestion by reducing stress and eating whole, nutrients-dense meals. I wanted her to focus on packing her own lunches instead of relying on fast food and grab-and-go foods from Whole Foods. And I wanted her to build strength in the gym or at her home workouts without aggravating her shoulder. So, about 6 weeks in, when she wasn't being successful with these minimal goals, in our weekly check-in, she hit me with this. This needs to be harder. If it were harder, I'd be doing it. And I was floored. She was so used to crash diets and extreme programs that not suffering felt wrong to her. I realized we weren't aligned in our values. I ended up having to fire her. And I told her, there are plenty of coaches who will take your money and throw you into a calorie deficit, but that is not how I practice. I'm all about health first, and I won't compromise on that. So why maintenance matters? This is exactly why earning the right to diet is so critical. If you can't master the basics in maintenance phase, like fueling your body properly, managing stress, and just being consistent, then making it harder by cutting calories and ramping up your exercise routine will only set you up for failure. Maintenance is a big deal because it prepares your body and your mind for success when the time comes for the fat loss phase. And it's not just about burning calories. It's really about building a life that you can sustain. And if you remember from a previous episode, the quote that I always say is, slow is steady and steady is fast. Because I think I heard you. If you were thinking, this sounds too slow. Remember, your body adapts to chronic dieting as a survival mechanism. 2, maintenance isn't a punishment. It's actually freedom. And 3, when done right, fat loss becomes easier, healthier, and more effective later. In closing, health first always. To wrap this up, I want you to remember at least one thing. Fat loss can be a goal, but it should never come at the expense of your health. By focusing on metabolism, hormones, and habits first, you are setting yourself up for sustainable success. So a little recap, a holistic reboot strategy for you will be number 1, I want you to reverse diet smartly. If you have been in a calorie deficit for far too long, increase calories by 50 to 100 per week max, focusing on whole, nutrient-dense foods. Number 2, lower exercise volume temporarily. Shift your resistance training to 3 to 4 times per week and sprinkle in restorative activities like walking, yoga, Pilates, and like I mentioned earlier, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Park farther away in the parking lot. Choose the stairs over the elevator. Look for other ways to increase your activity level in general. Work with a professional for number 3. This is your micronutrient check. Get a blood test to address any vitamin or mineral deficiencies. Common culprits are going to be iron issues, and that could just be an uptake issue. You might not actually be deficient. We can bring on an expert to break down that more in the future. B12 and vitamin D. I have many practitioners I recommend. DM me if you are curious about who you should work with. Number 4, track your baseline metrics. I also call this biofeedback. I want you to keep an eye on your resting heart rate, your body temperature. It shouldn't be too low. And we're going to talk more about how your resting heart rate and your body temp actually are signs on how your metabolism works. They're signs how you can monitor how your fitness and nutrition are impacting you. I have a whole blog about it, and how to monitor your energy levels like sleep, stress, self-talk. We talked about it in a previous episode, and I'm going to link it in the show notes. I think it was like ditching diet culture in season 2. And then the last one is patience. Slow is steady and steady is fast. You didn't get here overnight, okay? And the reversing these adaptations will take time. So I want you to find ways to celebrate small wins along the way. The key is sustainability. I want you to think of this as a long-term investment on metabolic health, not a quick fix. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who is caught in the cycle of dieting frustration. Let's help them break free and find a better way forward. So if you missed it, we talked about the 365 Easy Challenge episode and a bonus podcast that came out while I was on a break between season 2 and this season. And so I will link that in the show notes because it's never too late to start the 365 Easy Challenge. I created it last year and I market it. It's totally free. I am doing it myself. I've heard from a couple of you that are doing it, which is awesome, but you don't have to start it on January 1st. It's really fun, very simple, and check out the information in the show notes. That's all I have for you today, folks. Thanks again for listening. And if you've yet to leave a 5-star review, I would love it if you could take the time to do so. That helps get this podcast out to more listeners. Please share it with a friend, or I'd love to hear from you. Do you have some feedback? What do you think? And until next time, stay curious, embrace skepticism, and keep tuning in. Have a great week.